Right, so it's a new day and we have a new task on for the day, and that task is to actually take some slurry away from this tank. This tank here is getting fuller now and it's time to give it a quick mix. I'm going to draw it over to the other farm. I've mentioned this before on my channel. If you're new to the channel, just give you a real quick explanation of what we do. So we have a tank here. This one is the smallest tank we have. It does catch a lot of rainwater from the yard and things, so it fills a lot quicker than the rest of the tanks. Now this tank we have here, this is a big tank. It goes underneath our cubicles. It runs even past the length of this shed. It holds a lot of slurry, and it at the moment now is just approaching half full, so plenty of storage there. Our tank in this other shed here on the far side goes under the cubicles, and that's a 3-bed double house. It goes under the cubicles and it's about half full, getting close to the half full mark as well. No water ever gets into them tanks. But this tank here doesn't go under the cubicles. It's a bit of a mistake when my father built it in 1997, 96, 97, but he didn't. We can't change that now. So it does fill a lot quicker than the rest of the tanks, but it's easy for us to handle that now because we have a tank on our other farm, which is just so handy. All we have to do is mix this and draw a few tanks over and keep pumping into the other tank. You'll see that when we're over there, there's loads of storage over there. So we have loads of storage. We use that tank kind of over there as a Norse tank, if you want to call it. And what I mean by that is we mix our tanks here then in the springtime, and myself and another guy normally has a 4,000 gallon tank. We'll draw over to the other tank as it's been mixed and piped throughout the silage fields. So we get rid of a lot of slurry in 3-4 hours time. That's the task in hand. First thing I'm going to do now is put on the mixer. These cows will all be let out into the yard here. That's why I haven't cleaned the yard this morning after milking, because I know I'm going to put them out to it so that they're nice and safe. And there's no chance of breathing in any fumes that comes from these tanks, because you should always empty your house. No matter what the circumstances are, always empty your house before you mix your tank. By the way, we're going to be drawing over our 7.6, and the tank's already on it because we're tying down the roof with it for Storm Barra or Barra, whatever you want to call it. 54 is going to get our first taste of the agitator. That's something I'm looking forward to doing because it should handle it no problem. The little case, a lot of people would say to you, oh, it should mix no problem. No, I wouldn't like to put the case into a tank that's kind of thick, starting from scratch. Maybe a watery tank or something like that, just to give it a mix for maybe 5-10 minutes. But to put it into a tank and let it run for half an hour to an hour, I wouldn't like to do it. Especially it was 30 years old, so I never put the agitator on it, and that's the benefit we have here with the 54. It has the power to do a bit of mixing, and that's very handy. Do you mind? Do you mind? a bit stiff now at the minute. That's because a lot of the yard scrapings will go into this section, but when it starts to mix, the water will pull down and that'll all loosen up. It'll start to circulate, hopefully.
Cobwebs off her. It's just sailing through it, taking nothing out of her. That's another reason why it is so much better than the case. Power. Just has the power to do them kind of jobs, and that's invaluable. That's a time saver to me, because when we're drawing slurry over to the other tank, when Jonathan's using the dribble bar, I can have this tractor mixing while we're still slurrying away. So it's great. It's great to have.
Put a bit of glue on that. Guy that I'm using to open the manholes. You might wonder what it is, and all it is you remember these things here, and you put a socket on the top of them. When I was about 13 years old, I took it, we weren't really using it, and I just got a bolt, welded it across. It used to be straight, welded it across, and it was very handy. It's very handy for lifting the concrete ones as well. Just pop it down into it, turn it over and lift up. But it's also very handy for catching the manhole covers. You don't have to put your hands on the end, and just catch them and lift them back and forth. It hasn't broken yet, and I welded it when I was 13 years old. My father keeps looking at it every so often, say the very same words. Jesus, you must have put some weld on that, hey. That's it. It is handy. Now, just kind of the routine we do after we mix. And then doors is open now. And there is a wee bit of a breeze today, so it's just an ideal day for mixing. I'll leave the doors open. I'm going to wait for about 10-15 minutes before I put the cattle back into the shed. I'm going to actually put the cover back in the pit and do a few jobs, so I'm waiting for that to happen. At least you know then it's safe, because you could put cattle in way too quick, and I have heard of it happening, and the gases will still be in the house, especially when there's no breeze. So it's worthwhile just giving it 10-15 minutes and then let them back into the shed. I was told something by a very good mechanic many years ago. When you start up a tractor, no matter what tractor is, modern or classic, it doesn't matter. Give it about 5 minutes to warm up, especially in the winter time, because it does make an awful lot of difference to the tractor in the long term. So 5 minutes here and there. What I tend to do is to start the tractor up, go way off, do something else for a couple of minutes, and then come back to the tractor. It's nice and warm, ready to go. It's kind of the same when you get up in bed. 5 minutes, cup of tea, you're a different man. Or woman, or woman. So just on load number 9 now. We're after getting a good few load out there. Nicole's with me now. She just finished school for the evening and she wanted to come over just to actually check on the cattle over here. Brilliant job to get done because it takes the whole pressure off me now at home. That leaves it now that I'll not have to touch it for a good few weeks. And then all I have to do is give it another quick mix, put a few more loads over here anytime I like. So that's how easy it is. So all in all, when I look at my invisible clock and my invisible watch, about 3 hours I'll have about 10 tanks over here. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. It's not far to see as well, so it's not really an inconvenience, and it'll be there for Jonathan when he needs it. So that's it, that's the job done now. We have 10 tanks over, that's enough, that takes the whole pressure off. The tank at home is about half full now, well it's a little less than half full, and this tank here isn't half full yet, so it'll hold a lot of slurry. So we've no bother with slurry. This has really helped us an awful lot. I keep saying that, but you have to see it to believe it. It has helped us an awful lot. Just before we do leave today's video, there's a whole scenario now with farmers and they have to put on their dribble bars on the back of their tanks. We're all going to have to do it sooner or later. I know a lot of farmers are in derogation, has to do it right away because the splash bit is already banned since last year, since early last year. So we're going to have to put a dribble bar on the back of this. So I didn't really address anything on the dribble bar when I bought the tank because I knew I was going to cover it in a video down the line. We are going to be fitting a dribble bar on the back of this tank. Absolutely 100%. Whether we do it this year or next year, I don't know yet, but I'm saving a few quid towards it. But if it's not this year, definitely next year. I'm not under serious pressure to put on the dribble bar as yet. Jonathan comes here and he does all the work here on the dribble bar for me, and our farm is very easy to pipe. You might have seen that in videos before, at home and here, especially with this tank here, as is mentioned again. It's so easy to work with the dribble bar. So Jonathan can come and he can do it in the springtime and then come back if I need him for after the first cut and do it again. So I can fill this again as soon as he empties it, and it takes him only about 3 hours, and you know what, for what it costs, it saves me a lot of time. But the other ace I have up my sleeve is I can get the lend of a tank that has a dribble bar. There's a tank beside me that's there for me if I want to use it, so I'm not stuck. I can use it at home to do a few paddocks and leave it back whenever I'm done with it, so I'm not really stuck at the moment. But this tank, the whole reason for buying this tank basically is we had a 1600 gallon tank, as you remember, never liked it. Good enough for doing its job. For what I paid for it, very, very little money when I bought it. It done me a long time. It done longer than I imagined it would have done. But it had issues, and one of them issues was the smaller wheels that it was on. It was a bit of a disaster on steep ground, as we have all around us. We have no flat ground here whatsoever. And you could find yourself slurrying across a hill, and next thing, it'd just absolutely fly around to the side. It just liked to slip on ground, so I never was that overly keen on it. This tank here, again, bought for very, very small money. It's only a year fresher than the one I had, and it still is an old tank, but look at it, it's a good tank. It's dead on for what I want to do. But the last tank I had, there was no way I'd ever put a dribble bar on it, so I knew we're heading towards that era, and I knew if I was going to do it, I'd have to put it on the right tank, and this is the tank it will be going on. What brand we'll go for? Mastech, as you all heard of before. Mastech is built about 5 minutes away from the door of my house. That takes me 5 minutes to get to Mastech's yard, so it'd be pretty hard to go by them. I've already talked to them a few times earlier on, even last year, about them, just getting prices and things, and they are expensive. Like a dribble bar, you're talking between 12,000–14,000 euro with VAT and all included, like so. But that's where we're heading, and it is on the books for us. This tank's serving a great purpose as it is, just drawing over here with the bigger wheels. And it has a brand new pump on it as well, but even them bigger wheels, the recessed wheels that are on 2,000 gallon tanks on plus, everybody knows they're so easy to pull. It's way easier tank to pull than the last one I had. They're not as stable, you have to be careful with them. It wouldn't be long tipping itself over, wouldn't be as stable as the 1600. I might tidy it up a bit, I might do a little bit of touch-ups in the paint here and there, but otherwise It's fairly straight and it's good enough. It needs a set of brakes. I will put a set of brakes on it myself. Not a big job to do. I just have to make the time in the summertime and put a set of brakes. They are working 100%, but they're very snappy. Very, very snappy, especially when the tank is empty. I'm going to have a look at them, take the shoes off and have a quick look at them and probably just put brakes on it, because I don't know what the brakes is like on this tank. I've never seen them off, and you know something, you depend on them an awful lot when you have steep ground. It's actually the brakes in the tank do more than the brakes in the back of the tractor. So wherever we get our dribble bar, I was thinking of actually going into a yard and film the whole procedure of it being fitted, and can I get as much information to you guys that are thinking about putting dribble bars on as well, of what's out there from basic right up to every mod con. But we'll be putting on a very basic system, basic as it comes. That's all we need. We just want to get the slurry onto the ground, and as long as it does that, I'm happy enough with that. But one thing I will say in favour of the dribble bars, I noticed such a better response on the grass, especially with the springtime slurry going out. When we cut our silage, I just noticed such a better response. And for me, a dairy farmer, where you're on a tighter rotation, to use a dribble bar and not have it spread across the whole grass, you nearly can come in after a couple of days and can graze it again, and that's a big benefit, especially the year with the price of fertilizer. Slurry is going to be very, very important to use, and to use it right. So anyway, I'm going to head home here. We have a video actually going up now, whether it'll be midweek or next Sunday. Probably be next Sunday, because I'm absolutely up to my neck in cow's calving at the minute, and it's a calving video, and it's quite a, well, obviously we're in calving, it's always a calving video, but it's quite a graphic one. It's actually a heifer that calved, and it was very, very difficult calving. Well, the calving itself wasn't that difficult, but keeping the calf alive was extremely difficult, and it's actually a miracle. A lot of it's down to luck, but it's actually a miracle the calf lived, but it did. It had a good outcome. I wasn't going to show it because it is quite graphic and can be controversial to people that maybe in the non-farming community. But look, you know what? It's part of farming, it's part of what we do. And the more I thought about it, I said, why wouldn't I show it? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show it either midweek or Sunday, and it'll be an interesting one for you. And I will also do a video, maybe included into that. We'll do a video on how we raise our calves. Just give you the tips that we use, and maybe it'll help you out on your farm. I've learned a lot on stuff that works and stuff that doesn't, and I'm still learning. You're always learning, but I'll share them tips and tricks with you maybe in next Sunday's video as well. Cole's here with a lovely hat and a lovely scarf waiting on me, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks very much for watching as always. If you haven't subbed, now is the time to do it. Give us a like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook and on TikTok. Until the next one.
We'll talk to you again.